Hello everyone, and welcome to the first design influence that you need to be aware of for your GCSE product design, and that is social, moral and cultural issues. First of all, a typical question that you might encounter on the exam that deals with cultural issues. First one here shows you a picture of a wall hanging with an African design and asks you to give 3 reasons why designs from different cultures are popular. Another example of a past question is explain using one example how designs from other times or cultures have influenced modern designs in this country. So in other words, why do we like designs from other cultures, and how do designs from other cultures and times influence products? So hopefully at the end of this presentation you'll be able to answer these questions quickly and easily. First thing that you need to make a note of is what the definition of culture actually is. And culture is the ideas, customs and social behaviour of a particular people or society. Now, us in the UK, we live in a very culturally rich country. We have different ethnic cultures, we have different religious cultures, but you can also say that teenagers are also a culture. Children, old people, men, women, middle-aged. There's lots of different groups of people which could be classed as a culture. Now, as designers, we have to be aware of these different cultures, and we have a social and a moral duty to respect other people's beliefs and cultures. So just take a few seconds to think why we have to do that. Okay, hopefully you should have come to 2 conclusions. That is, we don't want to cause offence to any particular culture because we misunderstand them, and we also, as designers, want to learn from other cultures to understand them. So here are 4 products where there was some sort of cultural issue between the 4 of them. I wonder if you can figure out what they might have in common. Okay, well, it's got something to do with how their marketing slogans were translated into other languages. The first of these was Coors Light, which is a Canadian beer. Now, when this was marketed in Spain, Coors' famous slogan, which was "Turn it loose," was translated into Spanish. However, what they didn't check was that when they actually produced marketing materials with this slogan translated, what it actually said was gives you diarrhea. Okay, so that's something that you need to sort of watch out for from a designer's point of view. The second one was this pair of hair straighteners called the Mist Stick. They had a sort of water reservoir inside, a bit like an iron, so as it was straightening your hair it would be using steam to do that. Now, they didn't change the name of it when it was marketed in Germany. It was still called the Mist Stick. However, in Germany the word mist means manure, so essentially they were marketing this as the poo stick. Now, in Africa you will find that lots of like tinned food have pictures of the food that's on there. This is because obviously a large proportion of African countries can't actually read, and so they have to go by the images that are on the tins to figure out what's inside, which is why you can see that tins of baby food with pictures of babies on did cause them some confusion when they thought that they may actually contain real babies inside. And lastly, for a visit from the old Pope, not the current one, in Miami, they had a bright idea to get some t-shirts printed up that said "Vive le Papa" on, which they thought meant "I love the Pope." Unfortunately, that wasn't quite right. They got it a little bit wrong, and "Vive le Papa" actually means "I saw the potato." What they should have put is "Vive el Papa." So it works the other way too. When certain brands from abroad are brought into the UK, we get some interesting results, such as tins of drink called Erectus. You can make of that one what you will, and a bite of Golden Gay Time. Now, sometimes it's funny, and you'll find lots of sites that are dedicated to these sort of misconceptions. You can have a packet of Craps, P-Cola, and the wonderful Mini Dickmans. However, sometimes it's not. So, for example, this Transformer toy was called Spastic, and it was on the shelves for a couple of weeks in Toys R Us before some parents and the public got justifiably annoyed with this. Again, it was an innocent mistake. In America, the term spaz is short for spastic, and they use that for a clumsy person, and it's meant more of a term of endearment, and they didn't actually realise the implications of using that word in the UK. Now, something else you need to be aware of is how other cultures, what they're actually allowed to show. So, for example, in the Islamic tradition, they're not allowed to use images of people in their marketing and advertising. So they rely heavily on geometric patterns. So you'll see lots of decorative advertising in Islamic countries. So there are lots of other examples out there. For example, this laughing cow could cause offence to Hindus who revere cows. So obviously the company may have to think very carefully about how it brands itself in countries like that. And we also need to be aware of how culture can influence some of the products that you actually use. Now, this is a Sony Walkman. Now, you all listen to music nowadays on your phones. Before that, people listened to music on MP3 players. Before that, it was CD players. But the first portable music player was invented way back in the late 70s by the Japanese company Sony, and this was as a response to one of the owners of Sony, who wanted to listen to music whilst on a plane, and that comes about because in Japanese culture, personal space is very important. Japan is a very crowded country, especially in the cities like Tokyo. So you find that the people in there just want a nice sense of personal space, and this just fit the bill perfectly in terms of being able to sort of isolate yourself with music. So it took off very, very quickly in the East, and it didn't take long for it to come over to the West, and it's still one of the highest selling products of all time. Now, we also think about culture when we're on holiday. So, for example, we very often buy items whilst we're on holiday, and that was one of the questions that was asked at the start. And they're quite obvious reasons. First of these is that we like things that are different to the things that we have. So, for example, products, whether they have a cultural influence to them, they just look different to the kind of stuff that we can buy in this country, so we're attracted to them. They also remind us of our holiday. So if we've got these items around in our house, straight away they catch the eye and they remind us of our holiday abroad. And very often the level of quality in the items that you buy whilst on holiday is a lot higher, and we can appreciate that because they're not mass produced. They're very, very often hand produced. Okay, so there's three reasons there. We like things that are different, they remind us of our holiday, and we appreciate the level of handmade quality that you don't find in the mass-produced stuff that we tend to buy over here. Now, when we talk about culture, we can also talk about historical influences. So this is like designs from the past that can influence designs from today. So for example, this is a PT Cruiser from Chrysler, and as you can see, they're very heavily influenced from the designs of the cars of the 40s. You probably don't remember this on the first iPhone, especially for quite a few of them. The calculator, it still has the colours, but the calculator all pretty much copied the original Braun calculator from the late 70s. So Jony Ive there picking some of his design influences. And I've said to you there, can you think of another example of where perhaps something designed by another company has influenced a modern design? Now we also like to think of patterns and stuff that we can use. So very often we can look to other cultures for quite sort of decorative elements. So these chairs have used some of the sort of fabric decoration that you can see in some of this tribal wear. But also there are very particular sort of motifs and shapes which make us think of particular cultures. So for example, this Chinese chicken curry, it's not even been anywhere near China. This would have been mass produced in a factory somewhere in the UK, but by using certain shapes and the picture of the dragon, it infers the sort of cultural references of China. Same for this decorative item here for this Bombay mix, trying to pick up on some sort of Indian influences, and the same with the sort of Russian styles there for the vodka bottle. So in your booklets you've got a question there, so you've got these two questions which you can try again. So hopefully you should find these a lot easier after listening to that. And so if you do get any questions like this in the exam, that's pretty much what you need to remember. Okay.